Ambassador Zethkari's 4 eyes moved across the glowing datapad as he sat in his chair. The blue light from the screen made his gray skin look even paler than usual. Around him, the great council chamber of the Andorian station buzzed with quiet voices. Other ambassadors from different worlds talked in small groups, their strange languages mixing together like a weird song. The chamber was huge. Its walls were made of clear crystal that showed the stars outside. Ships moved past the station like tiny dots of light. Some were long and thin like needles. Others were round like balls. Each ship carried people from different worlds across the galaxy. Zethkari looked at his datapad again. The numbers on the screen made him feel worried. Something was wrong, but he could not put his finger on what it was. He had been an ambassador for over 50 years. He knew when something did not feel right. "Ambassador Zethkari," a voice said behind him. He turned around to see Commander Velanash walking toward him. The tall alien wore the dark blue uniform of the Galactic Defense Force. Her 6 arms moved in a way that showed she was nervous. "Commander," Zethkari said, "what brings you to the council chamber today?" Velanash sat down in the chair next to him. Her voice was quiet when she spoke. "We have been getting strange reports from our long-range sensors. Energy readings from the outer systems that do not match anything in our databases." Zethkari's ears moved forward. This was exactly what he had been worried about. Which systems? The Sol system, mostly. The dead system where the old myths say the humans came from. Velanash laughed, but it sounded forced. "Of course, we all know humans never really existed, the Sol system." Zethkari had heard that name before in the old stories. Every child in the galaxy knew the tales about humans. They were supposed to be a race of violent, crazy beings who lived on a blue and green world. The stories said they fought wars over everything. They killed each other for resources, for land, for ideas that lived only in their heads, but the stories also said humans were smart. Too smart. They made weapons that could destroy whole worlds. They built machines that could think. In the end, the tales said the humans destroyed themselves with their own creations. Their world became a dead rock floating in space. The energy readings, Zethkari said. "How strong are they?" Velanash looked around to make sure no one else was listening. "Strong enough to power a small fleet. But there is nothing in that system. Our maps show it has been dead for thousands of years." Other ambassadors began to walk toward their seats. The daily council meeting was about to start. Zethkari watched them come. There was Ambassador Korth from the Vorthek Empire. His people could read minds, but they never shared what they learned. Ambassador Silthara from the Skrell Collective moved with the strange, perfect steps of someone connected to a hive mind. And Ambassador Drenko from the Kethmoran Federation carried a datapad that probably held more information than most worlds had in their entire libraries. These 3 powers had ruled the galaxy for as long as anyone could remember. The Vorthak Empire controlled the core worlds with their mental powers. The Skrell Collective managed the trade routes with their perfect organization. The Kethmoran Federation built the technology that kept everything running, but lately things had been changing. Small problems at first. Trade ships that went missing. Colonies that lost contact with their home worlds. Reports of unknown ships seen at the edge of sensor range. Most people thought it was just the usual problems that came with running a galaxy-wide civilization. Zethkari was not so sure. "Ambassador Zethkari," a new voice called out. He looked up to see Ambassador Korth standing nearby. The Vorthak's purple skin seemed to glow in the chamber's light. His large black eyes looked directly at Zethkari, but the ambassador knew better than to stare back. Looking into a Vorthak's eyes for too long was dangerous. "Ambassador Korth," Zethkari said with a small bow of his head. "I sense your concerns about the outer systems," Korth said. His voice was smooth and calm, but Zethkari felt a chill run down his back. "Perhaps we should discuss these matters in private." "That will not be necessary," Zethkari said quickly. "I was just reviewing some routine sensor data." Korth's mouth moved in what might have been a smile. Of course. Though I must say, your thoughts are quite loud today. Something about ancient myths and dead worlds. Before Zethkari could answer, a loud sound filled the chamber. The council meeting was starting. All the ambassadors moved to their seats as the great doors closed with a heavy thud. High Speaker Murthak stood at the center of the chamber. She was old, even by the standards of her long-lived race. Her voice was strong when she spoke, but Zethkari could see the worry in her eyes. "We gather today to discuss the reports of unusual activity in the outer systems," she said. "Several of our member worlds have reported strange energy readings and unknown contacts on their sensors." Ambassador Drenko stood up. His mechanical arm moved as he accessed his datapad. "The Kethmoran Federation has analyzed all available data. We believe these readings are the result of natural stellar phenomena. Old stars sometimes have energy bursts that can look like artificial signals. What about the Sol system?" Zethkari asked. "The readings there have been consistent for weeks." Drenko's artificial eye focused on him. "The Sol system is dead, Ambassador. It has been dead since before our civilizations learned to travel between stars. Any energy readings from that area are most likely the result of solar flares or asteroid impacts." Ambassador Silthara spoke next. Her voice had the strange harmony that came from speaking for billions of minds at once. "The collective agrees with this assessment. We have no records of active life in the Sol system. The human myths are just that, myths. But what if they are not myths?" Zethkari asked. The chamber became quiet. All eyes turned to him. "What? If the humans are real, what if they never destroyed themselves?" Some of the ambassadors laughed. Others looked at him like he had said something crazy. But Zethkari noticed that a few of the older ambassadors were not laughing. They looked worried. "Ambassador Zethkari," High Speaker Murthak said, "the human myths have been studied by our best scholars. They are stories created to teach children about the dangers of violence and war. No evidence has ever been found that humans actually existed." "Then explain the energy readings," Zethkari said. "Explain the missing ships. Explain why our long-range sensors keep picking up contacts that disappear before we can get a clear reading." Ambassador Korth stood up slowly. "Perhaps, Ambassador. Zethkari is suffering from stress. Reading minds all day can be difficult, but reading too many worried thoughts can make one paranoid." The chamber filled with quiet laughter. Zethkari felt his face grow hot with embarrassment, but he also felt something else. Fear, not just his own fear, but fear from others in the chamber. Despite their laughter, some of the ambassadors were scared. "I move that we increase patrols in the outer systems," Zethkari said. "If there is nothing to worry about, then there is no harm in being careful." "Seconded," said a voice from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to see Ambassador Yiltar from one of the smaller worlds. His people were traders who traveled to the far edges of the galaxy. "My people have been reporting strange things too. Ships that appear on sensors but cannot be contacted. Signals that seem to come from empty space." High Speaker Murthak looked around the chamber. "Very well, we will increase patrols in the outer systems. But I want to be clear, this is a precaution only. We are not chasing ghost stories and ancient myths." As the meeting continued, Zethkari's mind wandered. He thought about the old stories his grandmother used to tell him. Stories about humans who could fight like demons and think like gods. Stories about a race that never gave up, never backed down, never forgot a wrong done to them. In the stories, humans were always watching, always learning, always waiting for the right moment to act. Zethkari looked out at the stars through the crystal walls. Somewhere out there, in the darkness between worlds, something was moving. Something that had been hidden for a very long time. He just hoped they would see it coming before it was too late. Captain Veltar stared at the main screen of her ship as the stars stopped moving. The luminous inquiry had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. The soft blue light from their controls made everyone look calm, but Veltar could feel the tension in the air. "Position report," she said to her navigation officer. We are at the outer edge of the Sol system, Captain, Officer Krendak replied. His 6 fingers moved across his control panel. All systems are working normally. No signs of other ships in the area. Veltar nodded. This was supposed to be a simple mission. The Kethmoran Federation had sent her ship to investigate the strange energy readings that had been reported from this system. Most of the Science Council believed the readings were just solar flares or asteroid impacts. But someone high up in the government wanted to be sure. Begin long-range scans, Veltar ordered. I want to know everything about this system. Every planet, every moon, every floating rock. Science Officer Merqueen looked up from her station. Captain, our sensors are picking up something unusual. The 3rd planet from the star is showing signs of water and oxygen in its atmosphere. That is impossible, Veltar said. Our records show this system has been dead for thousands of years. I am running the scans again, Merqueen said. Her tentacles moved quickly over her controls. Captain, the readings are correct. The 3rd planet has liquid water on its surface. Large oceans, and there are structures in orbit around the planet. Veltar felt her heart start to beat faster. What kind of structures? They look like space stations, Captain. Very large ones, and there are smaller objects moving between them. They could be ships. The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at the main screen. Veltar had been a ship captain for 20 years. She had seen many strange things in space, but this was different. This was impossible. Move us closer to the planet, she ordered. But keep us at the edge of our sensor range. I do not want to get too close until we know what we are dealing with. The ship moved slowly through space toward the 3rd planet. As they got closer, the sensors began to pick up more details. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of its surface. Green and brown landmasses were scattered around the globe. White clouds moved across the sky like soft cotton, but it was the space around the planet that made everyone afraid. Huge metal structures hung in orbit like silent guards. Some were shaped like wheels that spun slowly in the darkness. Others looked like long tubes with solar panels spread out like wings. Smaller ships moved between the stations like busy insects. Captain, Officer Krendak said. His voice was shaking. Our sensors are detecting thousands of artificial objects in this system. Not just around the 3rd planet. There are structures around the 4th planet too. And the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets is full of mining operations. Veltar stared at the screen. The asteroid belt looked like a busy construction site. Large machines were cutting rocks apart and moving the pieces to processing stations. Ships carried materials back and forth between the asteroids and the inner planets. How long has this been here? She whispered. Based on the wear patterns on the structures, at least 100 years, Merqueen said, maybe longer. Captain, some of these orbital stations are bigger than our home cities. Suddenly, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on every control panel. Captain, the communications officer shouted, we are being scanned by multiple sources. Very powerful scans. Much stronger than anything in our databases. Where are the scans coming from? Veltar demanded. Everywhere, Captain. The orbital stations, the asteroid belt, even some of the smaller ships, they are all looking at us. On the main screen, new contacts began to appear. Ships were moving out from behind the planets and asteroids. They had been hidden, but now they were showing themselves. Veltar counted 10 ships, then 20, then 30. Captain, Merqueen said. Her voice was barely a whisper. The largest ships are bigger than our heavy cruisers, and their hull design. It does not match any known technology, more alarms sounded. The weapons officer looked up with fear in his eyes. Captain, multiple weapon locks detected. At least 50 targeting systems are focused on our ship, Veltar's mind raced. Whoever these people were, they had been watching the luminous inquiry since the moment it entered the system. They had weapons that could lock onto her ship from impossible distances. And they had built an industrial empire in a system that was supposed to be dead. Open a communication channel, she ordered. All frequencies. Channel open, Captain? Veltar stood up from her command chair. She tried to keep her voice steady. This is Captain Veltar of the Kethmoran Federation ship Luminous Inquiry. We are on a peaceful research mission. Please respond. For several long seconds, there was only silence. Then a voice came through the speakers. It was a strange voice, deeper than most galactic species used. But the translator was working, which meant these people were using standard galactic communication protocols. Federation vessel Luminous Inquiry. This is Sol Defense Platform 7. You have entered restricted space without authorization. State your purpose. Veltar looked around at her crew. They all had the same shocked expression on their faces. Someone was living in the Sol system. Someone with powerful weapons and advanced technology. Someone who called this place home. Sol Defense Platform 7, we are conducting a scientific survey of this system. Our records indicated it was uninhabited. Your records are incorrect, Captain Veltar. This system has been inhabited for quite some time. You need to leave immediately. May I ask who you are? Veltar said. Our government will want to establish formal diplomatic contact. There was another long pause. When the voice came back, it sounded amused. We know about your government, Captain. We have been watching your ships travel between the stars for over 200 years. We know about the Kethmoran Federation, the Vorac Empire, and the Skrull Collective. We know about your trade routes, your wars, your politics. The blood in Veltar's veins turned cold. You have been watching us? Yes, but this is the first time one of your ships has come to our home. We had hoped it would not happen for a few more decades. We are not quite ready for formal contact. Officer Krendak leaned close to Veltar and whispered, Captain, more ships are appearing on our sensors. I count over 100 contacts now, some of them are huge. On the main screen, the space around the third planet was filling with ships. They moved with perfect coordination, forming a wall of metal between the Luminous Inquiry and the inner system. The smallest ships were the size of Kethmoran destroyers. The largest ones were bigger than anything Veltar had ever seen. Sol Defense Platform 7, Veltar said. We mean no harm. We are explorers, not conquerors. We know, Captain. Your species are generally peaceful. But others in your galaxy are not. The Vorac, for example, do not react well to things they cannot control or understand. Veltar felt her legs grow weak. How much did these people know about galactic politics? How long had they been watching? What are you? She asked. We are the people your legends call humans, Captain Veltar. And we think it is time for you to leave. The word hit Veltar like a physical blow. Humans, the mythical race from the old stories. The violent, dangerous beings who were supposed to have destroyed themselves thousands of years ago. But they were not destroyed, they were here. They had been here all along, watching and learning and building. Impossible, she whispered. Not impossible, Captain, just very well hidden. You have 30 minutes to leave this system. Do not return without proper diplomatic authorization. And Captain? Yes? When you report this to your government, tell them that humanity remembers everything. Every story told about us, every lie spread about our extinction, every assumption made about our nature, we remember it all. The communication ended. Around the Luminous Inquiry, the human fleet continued to grow. Ships appeared from behind moons and asteroids like ghosts materializing in the darkness. Some were sleek and fast, built for speed and stealth. Others were massive and heavily armed, designed for war. Captain, the weapons officer said, our computer has analyzed their ship designs. They are built for combat, but not the kind of combat we use. These ships are designed to fight multiple enemies at once. Ship-to-ship combat, orbital bombardment, fleet actions. Everything. Veltar sat back down in her command chair. Her hands were shaking. Set course for the edge of the system. Maximum speed? Yes, Captain. As the Luminous Inquiry turned away from the third planet, Veltar watched the human fleet on her screen. They were not following, but they were watching. Always watching. The ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Sol system behind. But Veltar knew that nothing would ever be the same. The galaxy had just discovered that its oldest nightmare was real, and the humans had been waiting for them all along. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked slowly down the long corridor of Kepler's rest station. Her black diplomatic uniform was simple compared to the colorful clothes worn by the alien ambassadors she passed. Some had feathers that changed color with their moods. Others wore robes that seemed to float around them like liquid. But Elena preferred simple things. She always had. Behind her walked Captain Sarah Chun, the military advisor assigned to this historic mission. Sarah's gray uniform had no decorations except for her rank insignia. Like Elena, she believed that action spoke louder than fancy clothes. "Are you nervous?" Sarah asked quietly. Elena smiled. Terrified would be a better word. "But we have been preparing for this day for 200 years. Our ancestors dreamed of this moment." The corridor was busy with aliens rushing back and forth. Word had spread quickly through the galaxy about the discovery in the Sol system. Every government, every trade union, every military force wanted to know more about the humans who were supposed to be myths. Kepler's rest was a neutral station built at the border between three different galactic powers. It was where important meetings happened when no one could agree on whose territory to use. The station was huge, with sections built by different alien races. Some parts had gravity that pulled down. Other parts had gravity that pulled sideways. A few sections had no gravity at all. Elena and Sarah reached the main conference room. Two galactic security guards stood by the door. Their armor was white and their faces were hidden behind masks. One of them stepped forward. "Ambassador Vasquez, you may enter. Your military advisor must wait outside." "That is not acceptable," Elena said calmly. "Captain Chun is part of my diplomatic team." "Only ambassadors are allowed in the conference room," the guard said. "No military personnel." "Sarah?" Put a hand on Elena's shoulder. "It is okay. I will wait here." Elena nodded and walked through the door alone. The conference room was circular with a high ceiling covered in stars. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat around a curved table. At the center sat the three most powerful beings in the galaxy. Ambassador Korth of the Vorthic Empire sat straight in his chair. His purple skin seemed to glow under the lights. His black eyes looked at Elena as she entered, but she did not look back. She had been warned about making eye contact with THS. Ambassador. Silphara of the Skrell Collective moved her head in a perfect rhythm. Every few seconds she would tilt left, then right, then forward. It was the sign of someone connected to billions of other minds across the galaxy. Ambassador Drenko of the Kethmoran Federation watched Elena with his artificial eye. Half of his face was metal and circuits. The other half was flesh that looked very old. His mechanical arm moved as he accessed information from his computer implants. "Please sit, Ambassador Vasquez," said High Speaker Murthak. The old alien gestured to an empty chair across from the three major powers. "We have many questions about your people." Elena sat down carefully. The chair was designed for aliens who were taller than humans, so her feet barely touched the floor. She placed her hands on the table and looked around the room. "I am sure you do," she said. "But first, let me introduce myself properly. I am Ambassador Elena Vasquez, representing the United Earth Government and the Human Colonial Union. We come in peace and hope for friendship with all sentient species." A quiet sound filled the room. Some aliens were whispering to each other. Others were making noises that their translators could not convert to words. Everyone seemed shocked that humans were really sitting in front of them. "Your ship," Ambassador Drenko said. His voice sounded like it came from a machine. "The one that brought you here. Our sensors could barely detect it until it was almost at the station. How is this possible?" Elena smiled. "We have been working on stealth technology for a long time. When you spend 2 centuries watching other people, you learn to be very quiet." 2 centuries? Ambassador Korth leaned forward. "You have been watching us for 200 years? Actually, a bit longer than that. We made our first contact with galactic civilization in the year 2157 by your calendar. A human exploration ship found one of your old communication satellites drifting in space. We learned your languages, studied your cultures, and observed your politics. The room became very quiet. Elena could see the fear in many of the aliens' eyes. They were realizing that everything they thought they knew about the galaxy was wrong. "Why did you stay hidden?" High Speaker Murthak asked. "Why not make contact sooner?" Elena stood up and walked to the center of the room. A holographic display appeared in the air above the table. It showed a map of the galaxy with different colored areas marking the territories of various powers. "Because we were learning," she said. "We watched the Vorthic Empire use mind control to dominate other species. We saw the Skrull Collective absorb entire worlds into their hive mind. We observed the Kethmoran Federation strip resources from primitive planets." The hologram changed to show historical events, battles between fleets, planets being bombarded from orbit, colonies being destroyed. "We saw how you treated species that were different from you, species that were smaller or less advanced or had resources you wanted. We decided that humanity was not ready to reveal itself until we could defend ourselves." Ambassador Silthara spoke for the first time. Her voice had the strange harmony of many minds speaking as one. "You accuse us of being aggressive, but the old stories say humans are the most violent species that ever existed." Elena laughed. It was not a happy sound. "The stories you tell about us are interesting. Some are based on truth. Yes, we had wars on our homeworld. Yes, we fought each other for thousands of years, but we learned from our mistakes." The hologram changed again. Now it showed Earth as it looked today. Cities covered the continents, but they were green cities with parks and forests. The oceans were clean and blue. The sky was clear. "We did not destroy ourselves," Elena said. "We grew up. We learned to work together. And while you were telling stories about our extinction, we were building something new." New images appeared in the hologram. Human colonies on dozens of worlds, massive space stations around distant stars, fleets of ships moving through hyperspace. "How many worlds?" Ambassador Drenko asked. His artificial eye was recording everything. 43. Colonies, 17 major industrial systems, 312 defensive stations, and about 20,000 ships of various sizes. The numbers hit the room like a bomb. Several aliens made sounds of shock or fear. Elena could see them doing calculations in their heads, trying to figure out how powerful humanity had become. 20,000 ships? Ambassador Korth's voice was barely a whisper. "That is larger than any fleet in the galaxy." "Yes," Elena said simply, "but most of our ships are not warships. We prefer to build things rather than destroy them. We have mining ships, research vessels, colony transports, medical ships. We only build weapons when we have to." "But you do have weapons," High Speaker Murthak said. It was not a question. Elena nodded. "Yes, we learned from watching the galaxy that peaceful species do not survive long without the ability to defend themselves. We have weapons, very good ones." She touched a control on her wrist. The hologram changed to show a human warship. It was black and angular, with no unnecessary decorations. It looked like it was built for only one purpose. "This is a human destroyer. It is one of our smaller warships. It carries kinetic weapons that can punch through any known shield technology. Its armor is made from materials that absorb energy weapons, and it is faster than anything currently in service with galactic navies." The alien stared at the image. Even to Elena's eyes, the ship looked dangerous. "How many?" Ambassador Korth asked. "That information is classified," Elena said. "But I can tell you that humanity takes the defense of our worlds very seriously." Ambassador Silthara stood up from her chair. "You speak of defense, but your very existence is a threat to galactic stability. The balance of power that has kept the peace for centuries is now destroyed." Elena turned to face her. "The peace you speak of was never real peace. It was just three powerful groups agreeing not to fight each other while they divided up the rest of the galaxy. Smaller species had no voice, no protection, no hope of advancement. And you think you can do better?" Ambassador Drenko asked. "We think the galaxy deserves a choice," Elena said. "For too long, three powers have decided. the fate of thousands of species. Maybe it is time for something different. High Speaker Murthic raised her hand for silence. What do you want from us, Ambassador Vasquez? What are humanity's demands? Elena sat back down in her chair. We want what every species wants, the right to exist in peace, the right to trade freely, the right to explore new worlds, and the right to defend ourselves if threatened. And if we refuse? Ambassador Korth asked. Elena could feel him trying to probe her mind, but the mental shields she had trained with for years held firm. Elena smiled, but her eyes were cold. Then I suppose you will find out why the old stories about humans were told in the first place. The room was silent for a long moment. Outside the windows, stars twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere among those stars, 20,000 human ships waited for Elena's report. We will need time to discuss this with our governments, High Speaker Murthic said finally. Of course, Elena said. But do not take too long. My people have been patient for 200 years. That Emperor Vorthal stood in the center of his war room, his purple skin glowing brighter with anger. Around him, dozens of his best military commanders sat in floating chairs. Their eyes were closed as they shared thoughts through their telepathic connection. The combined mental power in the room was enough to control the minds of entire planets. Show me the images again, the Emperor commanded. A large holographic display appeared in the air above them. It showed the human ambassador sitting in the conference room at Kepler's Rest. Elena Vasquez looked small and weak compared to the mighty aliens around her. But her words had shaken the foundation of everything the Vorthic Empire believed. 20,000 ships, General Kethmarin said. His mental voice echoed in the minds of everyone in the room. If this is true, they have the largest fleet in the galaxy. It cannot be true, Admiral Yurthek replied. We would have detected such a massive military buildup. Our spy networks cover every inhabited system. Emperor Vorthile raised his hand for silence. His mental power was so strong that it hurt to resist his commands. I have probed the minds of our agents at Kepler's Rest. The human ambassador was telling the truth, every word. The room filled with psychic tension. Fear and anger mixed together in a storm of telepathic energy. The Vorthic Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 1,000 years. They had never faced a threat they could not control through mental domination. My Emperor, General Kethmiron said, we must consider the possibility that these humans are immune to our psychic abilities. The ambassador resisted my probe attempts. Impossible, Admiral Yurthek said. All organic minds can be controlled. It is the natural order. Emperor Vorthal walked to the window that looked out over his capital city. Below him, millions of beings went about their daily lives. Most were Vorthak, but many were other species that served the Empire. All of them were under mental control to some degree. It was how the Empire maintained peace and order. I tried to read the human's mind myself, the Emperor said. It was like touching a wall of metal. Her thoughts were completely protected. The implications of this were terrifying. If humans could not be controlled mentally, they would have to be defeated by force. And if they really had 20,000 ships, that would require the largest military campaign in galactic history. We cannot allow this threat to grow, the Emperor decided. Humans must be destroyed before they can spread their influence to other species. My Emperor, General Kethmiron said carefully, perhaps we should attempt diplomatic solutions first. War with an unknown enemy is always dangerous. Emperor Vorthal turned from the window, his black eyes burned with psychic fire. Diplomacy is for equals. These humans are not our equals. They are a disease that must be cut out before it spreads. The Emperor gestured to the holographic display. New images appeared showing human colonies and ships. Look at what they have built. All of it hidden from us. All of it done in secret while they watched us like insects in a laboratory. The insult cannot be tolerated, Admiral Yurthek agreed. We are the masters of this galaxy. No primitive species has the right to spy on us. Within hours, orders went out across the Vorthic Empire. Every fleet, every battle group, every warship that could move was called to the capital world. The greatest military force ever assembled began to gather. In the darkness between stars, ships arrived from all corners of the Empire. Massive dreadnoughts that could destroy planets, fast cruisers designed to hunt down fleeing enemies, carriers that held thousands of fighter craft, support ships filled with supplies and troops. Emperor Vorthol stood on the bridge of his flagship. The mind's eye, through the windows, he could see hundreds of other ships stretching out in all directions. The combined firepower was enough to conquer entire sectors of the galaxy. Final count, Admiral? He asked. Admiral Yurthek consulted his display. 317 ships, my Emperor, the largest fleet in our history. 62 dreadnoughts, 95 cruisers, 160 destroyers and support vessels. And our telepathic coordination? Perfect, my Emperor. Every ship's crew is linked through our psychic network. We can coordinate attacks, share information, and react as one mind. No enemy has ever faced such unified command, Emperor Vorthol smiled. This was how wars should be fought. Overwhelming force applied with perfect coordination. The humans might have numbers, but they lacked the telepathic unity that made the Vorthic Empire invincible. Set course for the Sol System, he commanded. It is time to end this threat. The massive fleet jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, the capital world of the Vorthic Empire was left almost defenseless. But the Emperor was confident that would not matter. This war would be over quickly. 3 days later, the Vorthic fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol System. Emperor Vorthtal expected to see the same scene that Captain Veltar had reported. A few orbital stations around the third planet, some mining operations in the asteroid belt. Maybe a handful of patrol ships. Instead, he saw a nightmare. The space around Earth was filled with ships. Not hundreds, but thousands. They hung in perfect formations like geometric patterns, made of black metal. Each ship was dark and angular, designed for war and nothing else. How many? The Emperor whispered. Admiral Yurthek's voice was shaking. Our sensors are detecting over 4,000 contacts, my Emperor, and more are appearing every minute. As they watched, more human ships seemed to materialize out of empty space. They had been hiding behind asteroids, inside nebulae, even in the shadow of planets. The entire system was a trap, and the Vorthak fleet had flown right into it. Impossible, General Kethmarin said. Where did they all come from? They were waiting for us, the Emperor realized. They knew we would come. They knew exactly when and where we would arrive. A communication signal reached the flagship. The face of a human woman appeared on the main screen. She had gray hair and cold blue eyes. Her uniform was simple, but she wore it with the confidence of someone who had seen many battles. I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the Earth Defense Force. She said, You have entered human space without permission. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Emperor Vorthtal stepped forward. I am Emperor Vorthtal of the Vorthic Empire. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Admiral Chun smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Emperor, you brought 300 ships to attack our home. We have been watching your fleet since you left your capital world. Did you really think we would not be ready? Your numbers do not frighten us, the Emperor said. We have telepathic coordination that allows us to fight as one mind. Your ships are just individual units acting alone. Actually, Admiral Chun said, our ships are coordinated too. Not by telepathy, but by quantum communication networks that update faster than thought itself. And Emperor? You picked the wrong species to underestimate. The communication ended. Around the Vorthak fleet, the human ships began to move. They did not charge forward like eager warriors. Instead, they moved, with deadly precision, surrounding the Empire's forces and cutting off all escape routes. My Emperor, Admiral Yurthek said, we should withdraw and reconsider our strategy. No, Emperor Vorthtal snarled. We are the Vorthic Empire. We do not retreat from primitives. All ships, attack formation, target their largest vessels first. The Vorthak fleet moved forward. Their ships were beautiful in their own way, with smooth curves and elegant designs. Psychic energy flowed between them as 300 minds, linked together in perfect harmony. The humans waited until the Empire's ships were committed to their attack. Then they struck. The first volley came from weapons that the Vorac had never seen before. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, the humans fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic rounds punched through shields like they were made of paper and tore through armor like it was thin metal. "Shields are ineffective," Admiral Yurthek shouted. "The projectiles are moving too fast for our energy barriers to stop them." More human weapons opened fire. Missiles that could think for themselves and change direction in flight. Beam weapons that seemed to ignore armor completely. Fighter craft that moved faster than anything in the Empire's arsenal. Emperor Vorthtal watched in horror as his beautiful fleet began to die. The dreadnought psychic storm broke apart under a barrage of kinetic rounds. The cruiser Mine's Reach exploded when human fighters overwhelmed its defenses. Dozens of smaller ships were destroyed so quickly that their crews did not even have time to send distress calls. "All ships, coordinate telepathic attack," the Emperor commanded. "Focus your mental power on their flagship." Every Vorac in the fleet linked their minds together and directed their combined psychic energy at Admiral Chun's ship. It was enough mental force to drive entire populations insane, to break the will of armies, to turn enemies into slaves. Nothing happened. Admiral Chun's voice came over the communication system again. "Is that your best shot, Emperor? Our neural shielding has been protecting us from telepathic attacks for 200 years. We learned about your abilities the first time we intercepted your communications." The human fleet pressed their attack. More Vorac ships died with each passing minute. The Empire's forces tried to retreat, but they found their escape routes blocked by walls of human steel. "My Emperor, General Kethmiran." Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the rebuilt Galactic Council chamber. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sol, and everything had changed. The old circular design was gone, replaced by a more open arrangement where no single group could dominate the others. Around her sat representatives from hundreds of worlds. Many were species that had never been allowed in the old council before. Small trading civilizations that the major powers had ignored. Mining colonies that had been forced to give away their resources. Research stations that had been forbidden from sharing their discoveries, but the most obvious change was in the 3 seats where the old galactic powers used to sit. The Vorac Empire's section was nearly empty. Only a junior diplomat sat there, his purple skin pale with shame. Emperor Vorthtal had not been seen since his fleet limped home from Sol. Some said he was dead. Others believed he was hiding in shame. No one knew for sure, and frankly, no one cared anymore. The Skrell Collective had sent Ambassador Silthara, but she no longer spoke with the unified voice of billions. The collective mind had been shattered when news of the human victory spread. Individual Skrell were beginning to think for themselves for the first time in centuries. The hive mind was breaking apart as people chose freedom over unity. Ambassador Drenko of the Kethmoran Federation sat quietly in his chair. His mechanical parts were the same, but something in his organic half had changed. The Federation had decided that cooperation was better than confrontation. They were already negotiating trade agreements with human colonies. Elena looked up at the viewing windows that showed space around the station. Human ships hung in the darkness like silent guardians. They were not threatening anyone, but their presence sent a clear message. The old way of doing things was over. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Vasquez of the Human Colonial Union," announced the new speaker. Her name was Yolandra, and she came from a small world that had been ignored by the major powers for decades. Elena stepped forward. In her hands, she carried a simple datapad with humanity's proposals for the new galactic order. After 200 years of watching and waiting, humans were finally ready to take their place among the stars. "Honorable delegates," she began. 6 months ago, many of you believed humans were myths, stories told to frighten children. Tales of a violent species that destroyed itself long ago. She paused and looked around the chamber. Every eye was focused on her. Every translator was working to carry her words to dozens of different species. You were wrong about us being myths. But you were also wrong about what kind of species we are. Yes, we fought wars on our homeworld. Yes, we made mistakes. But we learned from those mistakes. We grew beyond our violent past. Elena touched her datapad, and a holographic display appeared above the chamber. It showed Earth as it looked now. Green continents covered with cities that lived in harmony with nature. Clean oceans full of life, a blue sky without pollution. This is our world today. We did not destroy ourselves, we saved ourselves, and now we want to help save the galaxy too. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates seemed hopeful. Others looked skeptical. A few appeared frightened. What do you mean by save the galaxy? Asked Ambassador Krentel from the hegemony of worlds. His people had been neutral in most galactic conflicts, but they were known for asking hard questions, Elena smiled. For too long, this galaxy has been ruled by fear. Fear of the Vorthic mind control. Fear of being absorbed by the Skrell Collective. Fear of having your resources stolen by the Federation. Smaller species lived in terror of the larger ones. The hologram changed to show a map of the galaxy. Different colors marked the territories of various powers. But now there were new areas. Marked in blue, human space and the regions under human protection. Humanity offers something different. We offer protection for those who cannot protect themselves. Fair trade for those who have been exploited, and freedom for those who have been enslaved. Protection? The Vorthic diplomat stood up, his voice shaking with anger. You destroyed our fleet. You humiliated the Empire. Elena turned to face him. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were cold. Your Empire attacked our home with 300 warships. We defended ourselves. If you call that humiliation, perhaps you should reconsider your definition of honor? The Empire will not forget this insult, the diplomat said. Good, Elena replied. We hope you remember it every time you think about conquering another world. Every time you consider enslaving another species with your telepathic control. We will be watching. Ambassador Silthara spoke up, her voice no longer carrying the harmony of the collective mind. What guarantees can you offer that humanity will not become the same kind of threat that the old powers were? It was a fair question, and Elena had expected it. We offer the same guarantee that any free people can give. Our actions will speak for themselves. Judge us by what we do, not by what we promise. Elena touched her datapad again. The hologram now showed human colonies spread across dozens of star systems. But these were not military bases or mining operations. They were cities, farms, research stations, and universities. We have been building for 2 centuries, but not just warships. We have built schools where any species can learn. Hospitals where any being can be healed. Research stations where scientists from different worlds work together to solve problems. She gestured to the viewing windows where human ships waited in space. Yes, we have weapons, strong ones. But we prefer to build rather than destroy. We prefer to teach rather than conquer. We prefer to trade rather than steal. What about our existing governments? Asked Ambassador Drenko. Will humanity try to replace us? No, Elena said firmly. Every species has the right to govern itself. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We just want to make sure it is ruled fairly. The chamber was quiet for a moment. Elena could see the delegates thinking, calculating, trying to understand what this new galaxy would look like. What are your specific proposals? Speaker Yolandra asked. Elena consulted her datapad. First, we propose a new galactic charter that guarantees basic rights for all sentient beings. The right to live free from mental control, the right to trade fairly, the right to explore and colonize new worlds without interference. The hologram changed to show the text of the proposed charter. It was written in simple language that every species could understand. Second, we propose a new galactic peacekeeping force. Ships and crews from many different worlds working together to stop aggression and protect the innocent. More images. appeared, showing mixed crews working on ships designed for peace rather than war. Third, we propose a technology sharing agreement. Humanity will share our advances in medicine, agriculture, and science with any world that wants them. In return, we hope to learn from the knowledge and experience of other species. Ambassador Krentel leaned forward. And if we refuse these proposals? Elena's expression did not change. Then you refuse them. We will not force anyone to accept our help, but we will also not allow anyone to prey on those who do accept it. Is that a threat? The Vorthic diplomat demanded. It is a promise, Elena said quietly. The age of galactic bullies is over. If you want to rule through fear and force, you will have to go through us first. She looked around the chamber one more time. We know that trust must be earned. We know that some of you will always see us as a threat. But we also know that there are species in this galaxy who have been waiting for centuries for someone to stand up to the old powers. Elena gestured to the smaller delegates, the ones from worlds that had been ignored or exploited. To those species we say this: you are no longer alone, you have allies now. You have protection, and you have a voice in how this galaxy is governed. The voting took 3 days. In the end, the new galactic charter passed by a large majority. Not everyone voted yes. The Vorthic Empire and several other aggressive species voted against it. But enough worlds supported the new order to make it official. As Elena prepared to leave the station, she received a message from Admiral Sarah. Chun. The text was short but clear. Patrol fleets are in position. Defense networks are active. We are ready. Elena smiled as she looked out at the stars. Somewhere among those distant suns, human ships were already moving to protect worlds that had never known safety before. Colony ships were carrying families to new homes where they could live without fear. Research vessels were making discoveries that would benefit all of galactic civilization. The old galaxy had been ruled by myths about human extinction, myths about the natural order of strong ruling weak, myths about the impossibility of peace between different species. But myths, Elena knew, were just stories people told themselves when they were afraid to change. The real galaxy was just beginning.